This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast.
Welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones, a podcast that celebrates the everyday runner. I'm your host, Allie Bretnacher. If you run, you are a runner, and every runner has a story. Join me each week as I share these stories, and we cross finish lines and celebrate milestones together. This podcast is brought to you by Previnex. Previnex provides clinically effective supplements that promote longevity, performance, and everyday health. I have been using Previnex products since January of this year. I had the pleasure and honor of meeting their founder, David Block. He lives in the Carmel, Indiana area, believe it or not. And he suggested that I try some of the products and see what I thought. And come to find out, I replaced the greens product that I was using with their new Gut and Greens product. And not only is it about half the price, but higher quality and less ingredients, no fillers. And it makes me feel great. I have found that my natural energy is higher. I don't reach for my second cup of coffee anymore. It helps with digestive health and regularity as well. I'm also taking several other supplements that they offer, and I love their Neurify protein powder. You can even mix that with the Gut and Greens for a tropical smoothie type taste and an easy breakfast. But if you'd like to try Previnex, you can go to Previnex.com, that's Previnex.com, and you can use code ALLIE15 at checkout to get 15% off of your first order. Thank you, Previnex, for supporting this podcast as well as our upcoming event. Hello and welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones. This is Allie Bretnacher. And in case you missed it, I just launched a humongous giveaway for the Indy Mini weekend here in Indianapolis, which is May 2nd and 3rd. The race is on the 3rd, that Saturday. And in partnership with the Bottleworks Hotel and my friend Lindsay Hine, who is the founder of Sandy Boy Productions and the host of the I'll Have Another podcast with Lindsay Hine, we got so many sponsors together for this incredible weekend getaway giveaway. So if you've never come to Indy to do this race, it's a great excuse to come in town. If you're local, it'd be a great staycation. Let me give you a quick rundown of what is included in this giveaway. So we've got 2-night stay at Bottleworks, which will be on Friday and Saturday night, 2 Indy Mini race entries, $100 for the Garage Food Hall, which is where I always go for pizza and beer before a race, and then a $150 Athletic Annex gift card. That is our local running store. They're also online, so even if you're not local. Previnex, we've got Gut and Greens, Muscle Health Plus, Joint Health, and Neurify protein powder, a huge, amazing bundle. The Athlete Good Luck gift set from Bitch Sticks, which you will hear about during this podcast. 6 Project Lean Nation, PLN, meals. So they have pre-made healthy meals. And a 60-minute mobility session from Transcend Training and Performance. That is my friend Whitney Miller. 1 50-minute standard Stretch Lab session. And Stretch Lab downtown Indy is right across from the Bottleworks. So actually, a couple years ago, I did that for the first time right after the Mini, and it was perfect. I needed it. 2 Indy Mini athlete bouquets. That is, of course, my business. It's like an edible arrangement, but for runners. So it comes with all the goodies that you would want before a race and after. Lindsay Hine's Marathon Training Plan bundle, an Erica Serra necklace, Pen and Pace's travel shoe bag. Super cute. Great way to travel with your shoes. And then a 24-pack of organic pure fuel, maple syrup, run fuel, which you know that I love. And now you need to get used to because there will be maple syrup on course for the Indy Mini, albeit not pure fuel. So not my most favorite fuel, but still same kind of thing. So if you have not yet entered this giveaway, there is a form. There's a link in my bio on Instagram. My Instagram is Allie, ALLYTBRETT_runs. Also the Bottleworks Hotel, Lindsay Hine, they all have it in their profile as well. You have to follow all 3 of us and then like the post, tag 3 of your friends. And again, that form is in the link in the bio. So that's a really long-winded way to tell you to do this giveaway. It's amazing. I want to win. Too bad I can't. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors for coming together and making this giveaway possible. I also went on site to the Bottleworks Hotel today to check out the event space, and it gets me even more energized and excited. not just for this event, but perhaps what we could do in the future. So if you haven't yet gotten your tickets, also do that. We are nearly sold out. We will sell out, and it's going to be cozy. So get your ticket. $25. The goodie bag is more than worth it. The company, the entertainment with Lindsay interviewing a 2-time Olympian, Kim Conley, and also Cameron Balzer, who ran around the perimeter of the United States last year. Might have somebody else joining us because the USATF 5K championships will be at the Mini Marathon 5K. So stay tuned. Who knows? But it's going to be great. And if you're not coming this year, maybe this will put a bug in your ear to think about it for next year. It is an iconic race. You run around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've probably heard me talk about it plenty. So anyway, I'm so excited. It's spring. Race season is coming. I got a chance to meet Mike Lee. He has his own production company called Mike Lee Productions, and that's how I found him. I saw some incredible footage from the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon last November and found out Mike was the one behind it. And come to find out, he's actually a runner himself. And he just did the Tokyo Marathon this last March, is chasing the majors. And I just really love his humble attitude, his kindness, and his running stories, and also, why he's so into film and what he likes to capture and all of those things. So I can't wait for you to get to know my new friend, Mike Lee. Welcome, Mike Lee.
Thank you for having me.
I told you right before we recorded that I'm embarrassed because I'm trying to do video, and I just realized, look at this. Probably shouldn't have that in the video. But thank you so much for coming from downtown to do this with me today.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
I'm such a big fan of your content. I just have to tell you that.
Thank you.
You're so talented.
Thank you. I try my best, and I try and learn something new almost every single week, and just be a sponge to new content and people doing things that inspire me, and how can I transfer that into my own style.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, the quality of your content, I'm like, how are you not just blowing up? And we were just talking about that too, because right. Instagram and everything else is not very nice.
Yes. Keep on telling people, like, social currency is such a weird thing to me. And the amount of followers is like the currency, and you're perceived as wealthier or more successful. I'm like, at the end of the day, like, they're just numbers. I know. Like, there are plenty of people doing better things than me that has like only 100 followers just because they don't post.
Right.
And it's all about, like, can you be a creator and can you be a marketer? But some people, they don't want to be both, and that's totally fine and totally respectable.
Yeah.
And yeah, so nonetheless, I appreciate the compliment.
Of course. When did you start Mike Lee Productions?
Actually, during the pandemic.
Okay.
So the pandemic hit sophomore year of college for me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was a whole ordeal. My sister was a senior at that time. Graduation was delayed. Internships and jobs for me were really hard. And I couldn't find anything, in person or even remote because funding and everything was cut. And so I just decided to start my production company then, because everyone needed podcasts, everyone needed webinars, training videos.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not doing anything. If I could do it at the leisure of being at home, then, I should just start this while I have the time.
Yeah. And how long had you been doing photography and video? Have you been interested in that for a really long time?
A little bit, yeah, but I didn't know if I wanted to go fully into like the production side of it. I was doing video and photo like during high school, and I really just fell in love with it's funny, we were talking about editing before this.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the editing side, believe it or not. A little psychotic, I know, but I love like how meticulous you can be like in the editing room. And I was like, well, in order to edit things, I usually need to film things. And so picked up a camera. I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. I could also be meticulous with the camera, and just started to blow up where friends of friends needed video work. People were graduating. They needed grad photos, and just like really getting any project that I could get my hands on. And yeah, now we're here.
That's so wild. So you're still in college when you started it too.
Yes.
That's nuts. How old are you?
Yes. So I'm 24.
24.
So I graduated Butler University in 2022.
Okay.
And yeah, straight off the bat, freshman year, I had an on-campus job with video and photo, and I like to call it kind of like controlled freelancing, where a professional would give us client work to do, and she would delegate the projects. And I was like, well, I also really am liking the client side of it. Can I, shadow you on client relationships? How do you budget? How do you quote? And just like, again, being a sponge and seeing the resources that are available to me and just going at it 110%.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
24.
Yes.
So impressive.
Yes.
And when did you start doing work with Indie Monumental? Because that's how I discovered you.
Yes. So straight after college, I went to visit Indie at their like marketing team and learned such a great deal about how the city operated, how the city is linked and interconnected. And I was like, man, okay, so if I don't know someone or if I don't know an organization, I probably know someone that does. And my job at Visit Indie was to promote events through social media. And I was like, well, I'm a huge runner. I want to cover all these running events. And obviously, Indie Monumental, huge race, top 15th in the country as of, I think, 2023.
Yeah, we're 14th now.
We're 14th. Amazing.
I know. That's exciting.
Amazing. Awesome. The main objective of that job was to put Indy on the map. And so I highlighted the Monumental while I was there. I got the media pass, put that on my portfolio, put that on my resume, everything. And then when I went full-time freelance, they remembered me from last year. And we just kind of got to talking, and it's like, okay, if this is a good fit. And obviously, I think a lot of races, they want to hire video people that know the running world.
Yeah.
And
ideal.
And it's like, okay, well, you know how crazy marathoners are, so you could highlight it, and you have an extra edge to some videographer that doesn't.
Right.
And also, if I truly do believe if you're passionate about something, you're going to do a better job. And so really got working there. I also worked with the 500 Festival at the Indy Mini and all of their great events.
So fun.
And so it was just like a natural lead up to the Monumental and hoping to do that in 2025 and also doing the 500 Festival things this year. So just super excited for just like the intersectionality of my two passions of running and video.
How perfect.
Right. And I'm like, well, like truly, if I love the things that I'm filming, I'm not working. You know, if I'm not on the starting line racing, I want to be there filming.
Now, when you film in these events, are you mobile? Like, are you on a bike riding around town? Like, I know you probably know Timmy Howard.
Oh, my gosh. I aspire to be as mobile as Timmy.
He is another level, I think, though.
Yes. I shadowed him at the Fort Bend race, and he had two cameras around his waist, biking no-handed, going like 15, 16 miles an hour, and like he's turning, he's weaving, he's dodging potholes, and then he just like jumps off of his bike to snap some pictures and then on his merry way.
And you're like trying to keep up?
Right.
I mean, that'd be so hard.
And I'm like, Timmy, like what's going on? Do you do this all the time? And he's like, yes. I was like, okay, cool. So I know how to bike one-handed or like no-handed, but I don't know if I could do that with a big camera around my waist.
Essentially your babies, like you're carrying all your babies.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if my insurance saw that, they'd be like, no, we're upping your upping your policy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny to picture. Because I can, like, when I ran Monumental last fall, Timmy was on a bike, like, in Newfields.
Yes.
Yeah, I witnessed it firsthand, him being no-handed. I'm just like, okay, right. Like, I think what I'm doing is hard, running a marathon. But what he's doing is harder because he is just, nonstop the whole day. Like, I get to stop when I cross the finish line.
He's going all day, and I love his Instagram posts afterwards, you know, with him with the recovery boots on and just like editing. And I'm like, man, that is the hybrid athlete. Like we have the power lifters, we have the marathoners. Like, no, that's the true hybrid athlete right there.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about Mike Lee Productions, but I want to hear more about your running journey.
Yeah.
So you just did Tokyo. In March, which is so freaking cool.
It was an amazing experience. Yes.
I need to hear all about that.
Yeah. So obviously Tokyo is one of the 7 world majors. And right when I completed the domestic ones, I was like, well, like, what are the odds that I could get into London, Berlin, and Tokyo? And just was doing a deep dive, how to get in and how to like raise money and all the different possible loopholes that you could do. And just saw that I could fundraise. And I've never fundraised for a race. And, I was like, well, this is a great time to do it. Japan Cancer Society, it lines up with my personal beliefs. My dad just went through prostate cancer not too long ago. And just, I feel like it's always a never-ending journey. Like it's always a journey, like once you get the diagnostics. And so just wanted to give back in any way that I can, and a goal that resonated with almost everyone else. Yeah. And so just the amount of support just with my fundraising journey. And I only had about 60 days to come up with the money. And
Did you say how much already?
So it was about $1,500.
Okay.
So $1,500.
Not crazy.
Not crazy. Yes. So in about, I would say like only a couple of weeks, people in the Indianapolis and Chicagoland area, they found my page and started donating. And a shout out to Larry as well.
From Athletic Annex.
Yes.
Love Larry.
Yes. Shout out to Larry, because he was like, I want to help you. I want to help you on your journey. Let's throw an event with Adidas and let's do a giveaway linked to your GoFundMe. And just seeing the running community just really support me was such an amazing experience. And that wasn't even at the race either. And so just after I fundraised the money, seeing how I could go to Tokyo, and my parents obviously came as well, which was super sweet of them.
That's so awesome.
And my dad doesn't really like to travel a whole lot. And so he was like, man,
that's big travel then.
Tokyo is a huge lift for him. And he's like, if it wasn't for the marathon, like, I don't think I would have gone. And that just shows how much that they support and follow like this journey with me, as crazy as it may seem. And that's not even talking like, so after I fundraised the money, like I went through an Achilles tendonitis injury.
Yeah.
And of course, those take forever to recover. And just the whole entire thing formulated where it was just chalk it up to a good experience. Like you made it to Tokyo and you fundraised this money for a great organization, great cause. And, just did my first international marathon. So one for the books for sure.
Yeah. How did you end up being able to run it though?
Yeah, it was really like good timing. I would say after I ran Chicago in the fall, about around Halloween time to November, my Achilles just flared up really bad. And I was actually in New York filming for the New York Marathon when it flared up. And I was like, oh, great. A city that I have to walk so much and, like be mobile. So when I got back from New York, just really hit physical therapy really hard, twice a week, doing all the calf raises in the world, and just like ankle mobility, ankle stability, hip work, hamstring work, and just was on the bike for forever, just because I knew Tokyo was coming up. And once the Achilles healed up, I wanted to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my cardio and my cardio work to be lacking like when I finally was able to run. Right.
Absolutely.
And so especially like that's during the winter too,
right.
The hardest months, especially for our Midwestern runners.
It's rough.
Yeah, it's rough. And, luckily the gym was really accommodating and was really easy for me because I live downtown. And so just thinking about, okay, I need to run at least like Tokyo. Like I need to be on the starting line, like no matter what shape I'm in, I just need to be there. I just need to make it.
Right.
And that was just kind of my motivation throughout the whole entire winter. And it just turned out really well, and had about 6 weeks of good training under my belt.
Just 6 weeks. Thank God you're 24.
Right. And I'm like, okay, like I know I could bounce back from it now.
Absolutely.
I might pay for it, 10 years down the road, but
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, and you did the work of the rehab stuff, which I feel like, at least for me, I'm very cliche in that I don't stretch, I don't do my exercises. I've been to see Jacob Crow here, where a lot of runners see him at Tempo Sports Rehab. And I saw him, and I actually just found the videos he made for me the other day, because I was like, I need to probably start investing in doing this again, because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to have to take a break.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's so important maintaining your fitness and stability, especially like in the ankles, and really just being strong from, the feet and up. And just, again, all the runners know your body's connected in one way or the other. And, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And, it's just like taking the extra 5-10 minutes before and after, maybe a little bit longer.
It's like, well, don't push your I'm like, 5 minutes.
Right. I was like, okay, like maybe for those early morning runs, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have the time, like just stretch and just take care of yourself.
Yeah, I know. Someday I'll be good at it.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll see. So, Mike, what is your family's heritage? You're not Japanese,
No,
right?
no.
Okay.
So
yeah,
Korean.
So Korean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only time that I've been to Korea actually was for a layover flight.
That's the only time I've been to Korea
right.
as well.
Yep. And gorgeous airport.
Seoul.
I will say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
and
so crazy.
I was there for about like 5-6 hours on the way to Cambodia for a mission trip. And
wow.
Yeah, such a long flight as well, such a long journey, but such a unique perspective to have, and just realizing like there are more perspectives than just like the States. I know that sounds like super ignorant, right?
But I mean, yeah, until you've been outside, it's really hard to truly understand, I think.
Right. And just like seeing just such a different world out there, and like truly was just really impressed with just the transportation. Public transportation in Japan is incredible, super clean, heated seats on the subway, I will say.
Whoa.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yes.
That is mind-blowing to me.
Yes. So after the race, the last 3 days I was there, snowing, sleeting, just ridiculous weather out there. And we hop on the subway. I'm like, why am I starting to get warm? And I look down below, and yeah, believe it or not, seated. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Like just phenomenal. I loved it. The whole experience was such an eye-opening experience, and just it makes me want to travel even more.
Right.
Because I was like, okay, if that's how Japan does it, how does Berlin do it? How does London do it?
Yeah.
And just like being, super wide-eyed to, all of the experiences, and just saying yes to any opportunity that comes my way.
I didn't realize that it was, I guess I'm trying to like visualize the globe and be like, what hemisphere, what season? But I didn't realize it was going to be cold.
Did
you know that? I mean, I don't know anything about the weather.
I thought it was going to be at least temperament. Like, the day of the race was really warm, about 75 degrees and sunny. And I was like, man, and I got really dehydrated during the race. And afterwards, I was like, well, that explains it, because I was training in negative degrees in the Midwest. And when you fly across the world and, run a race about 70 degrees hotter than you're used to.
Yeah, you're going to be a little dehydrated.
Yeah. And I was like, man, I should have thought about that a little bit more. But yeah, just super, super unique experience. Again, like I said, traveling in itself is, an accomplishment. And then when you talk about like nutrition, how to find, the right like diet while you're there, getting accommodated.
What the heck do you eat?
It was truly like pretty difficult to find like a pasta restaurant or like Italian place like in Japan. It's like doing something that's familiar. Obviously like the food's very different. So getting accommodated to that, and being uber careful on that, 48 to 24 hours before the race.
Yeah, because I think, don't eat bad sushi like right before. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh, no. I don't think that there is bad sushi out there.
I was thinking the same thing. Probably not in Japan. Everything is fresh and amazing.
Yes, everything was phenomenal, but I was like, I can't eat any seafood, really before the race.
Yeah.
Just because that's not what my body's used to. So
yeah, absolutely. Did pizza? Did you like track down pizza?
No, I didn't track down pizza.
I just guess I don't really think about that. Yeah. What other nuances? I feel like your eye is so much different being, in the field that you're in, right? Looking at things from a photographer, videographer's perspective.
Yeah.
What kinds of things did you notice that were different about the race environment compared to Monumental in Indiana?
Yeah. First of all, like this is not a dig on the U.S. at all, but the streets were so clean and there were no potholes. The last thing that you want to worry about while running a marathon is potholes and divots and sewer lines. Just straight concrete, like the whole 26 miles. And I was like, this is amazing. And just like seeing the building structures and seeing old and new Tokyo, and just seeing the temples mixed in with the skyscrapers. And I truly do believe a marathon is the best tour that you can have of a city.
Yeah.
The first time I was in New York was for the New York Marathon.
That was the first time you were in New
York? That was the first time.
Okay, that is the best.
I was like, okay, like this is the way to experience New York. And it is legitimately just a 3-hour party with
3 hours. Sorry. I have to pause and laugh. Or a 5-hour party or whatever.
Right,
yeah,
right. But just with, 50,000 other runners.
Yeah.
And just like what an experience, and like how like that's just such a great tour of a city. Expensive tour, but just such a rewarding one.
Yeah. Does Tokyo, do they use paper cups?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So everything was just a little bit different. And instead of Gatorade, they had Picari Sweat, which Picari Sweat, amazing.
Never heard of that.
It's kind of like a fusion of, think about like a Gatorade plus Powerade. And so a little bit more like watered down than Gatorade.
Okay.
But just had a really nice flavor, in my opinion. I don't know the nutrition stats on it, so I couldn't tell you.
I don't.
But, when you're 20 miles deep and you're like, man, this tastes really good, I'll take it.
Right. That's all you can ask for.
Yes.
What kind of fuel did they have? Did they offer fuel on the course?
They had such unique snacks along the way. So I didn't take any just because
You're like, I don't want to play that game.
Right. I don't want to play that game. I'm already dehydrated. I don't want to fuel with different snacks that I'm not used to. But think of around like mile 20. They had a couple different snacks. You know how like courses had bananas or
Oranges.
like Morton gels. Yeah. Yeah. So they had different snacks along the way. Honestly, like I kind of black out during races, so I don't remember too much, but I do remember the scenery just being, so gorgeous, so beautiful. Nothing like I've ever seen before, and just seeing old and new Tokyo blended together during that experience is really, really awesome.
How about the topography? Is it pretty flat, Tokyo?
Very flat.
I was trying to picture all the majors. You've seen the graphics of all the elevation profiles.
Yes.
Okay, so that's nice and flat. Did you run through parks then as well, like to get to see some scenery, or was it mainly city?
Mainly street, mainly city. So we finish at the Imperial Palace, and so that's a huge palace in the middle of the city. And just super gorgeous architecture. You have all the bright greens and all the bright reds of the temples. And as the photographer and the video person, I'm like, if I only had a camera, like this
has to drive you nuts
amazing.
when you're running.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it keeps me distracted from the amount of pain that I'm in too.
Right. You're like, I'm just gonna take some mental photos.
Yes. Mental photos and just like the shadows and the highlights, and I could go on and on about that.
Yeah.
But just I truly do think street photographers are at an advantage when they're marathoners too, because they're not paying attention to the race itself. They're just, looking at different compositions and framings.
Yeah. What are the moments that you like to capture the most?
Oh, that's a really hard question. That's a really hard question. I think the next marathon that I highlight or go to, I want to capture nothing of the actual race, but I want to create a video with the spectators. Because the spectators are just as crazy, because they're biking, they're finding, the nearest subway, they're finding, how can I see my one person for 5 seconds?
Yeah.
And I truly appreciate my parents going out to Tokyo just to see me for 10 seconds of the race. Maybe.
Where were they in the race?
They were, I think, if I recall, around like mile 14 or so, and then another time at like 16 or 17, I believe.
And it's all kilometers too, right? So you're like...
Yeah. Also, no mile markers either on the course.
Yeah.
But even in the States too, like you see all these spectators just looking out for that one person, and just seeing the passion on their faces, and seeing, like when they see that one person, just them yelling or supporting or, holding up the signs. Like I want to create content revolving around the people that are supporting the marathoners, because I truly, it's such a thankless job.
Yeah.
And it takes so much planning, takes so much, and a lot of spectators are like, man, I'm sore after that day. And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be sore. You're gonna be moving, you're gonna be grooving. And it's just, that's such a unique perspective. And in the content for Beyond Monumental, I tried to capture the race and also the spectators, because they have the energy. They definitely do bring it.
Yeah. I love that so much. I have spectated New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I spectated the year after I ran. I went back because some friends had to defer. And so I was like, well, you cheered me on. I'm going to go back and cheer you on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've spectated in Chicago, and then obviously Monumental and around here. But I have such an appreciation for people like my husband, who brought our 2 young kids out, right? You're like dragging kids. And even for him, he was just going to one spot. But like just to get those kids out the door, dressed, and like get them to the right place at the right time, like all that's really hard. And I've joked on this podcast before talking about how it's easier than parenting. Like running a marathon is easier because you just are by yourself. It's like, oh, this is a break.
Right.
It's hard, but not as hard as, lugging little kids around.
Exactly.
So yeah, the idea of following a family around a city that they may not even know and, being at the expo answering questions about like how to spectate, it gives me anxiety because I don't want to steer anybody wrong,
Yes.
Because if you're not there for those 10 seconds your runner runs by.
And usually the app is, a couple seconds, if not a couple minutes delayed.
Yes.
So you can't really trust it. And each app is different.
Right.
So like Monumental might be early, Chicago might be late. And only like the veteran spectators know that, which is a little funky to say out loud. But like my dad has a complete note sheet of like, what time do we need to like be at the race? What time like do I need to be at this mile? And he will do whatever it takes to like see me the most during the race.
Yeah.
And my mom thinks he's a little psychotic, which he might be.
But that's his sport.
But
it's
like
the best.
That's his sport. He is so excited to see me race. And he will take a city bike, a scooter. He took a rickshaw in Chicago for a good amount of money to book it to back to Chinatown. And yeah, just like the passion that spectators have. And it's like, okay, yeah, marathon is an individual sport, but at the same time, A, you're racing yourself, and B, the spectators, like that's a sport in itself.
Yeah.
Like kudos to you. Like put it on Strava. Like truly.
Truly do that.
Yeah.
And also signs, like people who really put in a lot of effort for signs. I love the creativity. I mean, the distraction of being able to read amazing signs is awesome as a runner. So, yeah, do you have any that come to your mind that are like some of the best you've seen? I know that's a hard question.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many.
The one that's top of mind is Emma Bates posted it the other day, and it's the guy that looks naked, and he has a sign that says that's covering his, and it says "Run faster or I will drop the sign." And there's a photo of Emma just like having the biggest grin on her face.
Yes.
And I'm like, I want to know what mile that was at, because I'm sure that helped her, because she's like, oh, yeah, like at least for a couple seconds, I wasn't focused on the race, but I was focused on this stupid, kid with a sign that like made her chuckle.
Yeah.
Like that in itself is so worthwhile and so creative. But I do love like a kid holding like a power up
I love
sign.
those too.
Like, please.
Yeah.
If you have a kid, create a sign. Put it on the course, because like you will get so many high fives.
Yes, it's the best.
So many cheering. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, actually, okay, this was at Carmel. Maybe it was last year. They blur together.
Yep.
But there was this woman and her kids, and she had her phone playing like the Super Mario music.
Amazing.
And so like when you hit the sign, she would do the sound effect.
That's
and I was
dedication.
like, this is above and beyond, ma'am. Like you need a medal as well.
Yes. And let's talk about the volunteers too.
Oh.
Because the volunteers just truly make the race happen. And especially, I think, in Indianapolis, like volunteers, they show up for races.
Yeah.
Like no matter what it is, no matter what the job is, no matter the weather too. Like,
right. You think about bitching about running in the wind. Imagine these poor volunteers who can't
just,
get
like,
the
standing.
cups to stay still.
Yeah. And just like holding it out, they're usually going to get wet because runners are clumsy, or they will spill. And
I don't have good aim.
Right.
I try not to hit the volunteers.
Correct.
But,
But it's like when you're running, like I'm sorry, that's the last thing that you're thinking about,
right.
And just it's such a thankless job sometimes.
It really is.
And at the end, I always like try and say thank you, and like thank you for being here. And they just have such a attitude about it, and just like I'm here because I like seeing other people succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that warms my heart, and I know that I wouldn't have such a great marathon experience if it wasn't for the volunteers.
Yeah. I like to encourage people to volunteer at races.
Yes.
Because it's like sad and embarrassing to admit, but like before I joined the board for Beyond Monumental, I had never volunteered at a race. And I had run, and this is not a knock if you've never volunteered, but just it's something to think about. I had run, I don't know how many half marathons and marathons before, a lot, like over 50, and then like probably a handful of marathons. And it just never really crossed my mind to volunteer.
Yeah.
And then with Beyond Monumental, I've started doing that. And you just realize, the kinds of people that come out and volunteer and why they do it and all that. And you're like, man, I mean, filling up water cups is a sport.
Yes. And stacking them
Oh
upon
my God.
stacks?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
There's a whole strategy.
Right.
I had no idea.
Right. And so full circle moment, full circle, I volunteered at the Chicago Marathon in high school.
You did?
And so that's how I got in, because the way that the first year, it was kind of a rites of passage in cross country to volunteer because you had to be a certain age. And I'm young for my age, with a June birthday.
Yeah.
And I remember all my friends going volunteering when I couldn't, and they're like, oh my gosh, it was great. We saw the pro athletes. We tried to like race on the sidewalk next to them, but like we saw all of these runners and it was great. You need to go like next year when you can. And I remember the first year we were handing out water cups. And again, thankless job. You're going to get wet. You're going to have to take a bus at like 4 a.m. because you have to set up. But you get, jackets, you get hats. And like that's just the coolest thing as a high schooler. And, you're tracking all the pro athletes on your phone. And year 2 was at the finish line with handing out bananas. And it's long hours, but to see people cross the finish line and it's like, man, like I want to do that one day. Like I want to run the Chicago Marathon one day. And, only a couple years later, I was like, all right, like I'm at the start line. And I saw every single year I see my high school volunteering out there.
That's cool.
And it's such a unique full circle moment. And I'm like, no matter what I accomplish, like I want to be looking back at like, the people that started it and, made me realize these goals and these dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a rewarding thing to be a part of.
Yeah. When did you start running?
So I started running in the 6th grade.
Okay.
And it was only that early because I had 2 older sisters and they wanted to do summer running for high school. And it was at like 6:30 in the morning, and it was easier for all 3 of us to go instead of, my parents dropping off two of the 3 and then me being home or, whatever. I'm like, can't I just like sleep in or, just watch cartoons or like just be at home? And they're like, no, like you're going to this. And just fell in love with the process and just the delayed gratification of running. I didn't know it at the time. I just thought that it was too early and, too hot outside to run. But eventually it stuck.
Wow. That's so funny. What part of Chicago was this that you grew up?
Yeah, northern suburbs. Okay. So I say Chicago depending on, who I'm talking to.
Totally.
But, if I say Chicago to a actual Chicagoan, they're like, oh, you're from the suburbs.
Yeah.
But about 30 to 35 minutes north.
Okay, which suburb?
Northbrook, Illinois.
Okay, Northbrook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with some. Like, my sister's best friend lives in Hinsdale, which is super nice. Oh, my gosh, I wish I could remember where this guy I met in North Dakota, Himanshu, is from Chicago. And I forget the name of his running club, too, but he volunteers at Chicago every year. Okay. His job is the first aid station. Like, that is his jam. But, yeah, all those areas I lump into Chicago as somebody from Indy. Like, I'll say I'm from Indianapolis, even though I'm from Carmel, right? It's like people who aren't from Indiana, no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, Northbrook. And so after high school, what made you pick Butler?
Yeah, Butler was already on my radar because conveniently my 2 sisters went there as well.
There you go. Okay.
And, me being the stubborn youngest child, I was like, I'm not going to follow my 2 siblings. Like, I want to do my own thing and I want to, like, make my own path because I feel like I've been in the shadow, like, of them. And then I started looking into like Butler's communication school, the city, the internship opportunities. And I was like, man, like Butler seems like a really good choice. But I also wanted to run in college. And that was a huge thing because I wasn't quite good enough to, have D1 like letters sent to me, but I was looking at D3 schools and trying to, see can I run and also have great internship possibilities in the future. And Butler, I could have walked on. Maybe I could have given it a shot, but I was like, I'm going to take the school that has more of the professional development skill sets. Because let's be real, like, I'm not going to be a professional athlete. So, like, why am I going to pick a college based on, the athletic potential?
Yeah.
And was really lucky freshman year to get involved in, like, a run club and really just, like, running with people that also wanted to do marathons and wanted to get into that, like, scene. And I still run with a couple of them, like, now. Cool. And that's just been so rewarding because I chose the school based on, my career choice. Yeah. And it's like, no matter where you are, like, you're going to find runners. Like,
yes.
no matter what.
Yeah.
If you look hard enough and if you're just on the Monon or the canal, like, you're going to see people on a regular basis. And it's such a small world, especially in Indy.
It really is.
So, yeah, just started off at Butler and just, transitioned my way, like, after post-grad. And it's like, wow, like, Indy's actually a really good city to live in.
It is. I'm biased because I grew up here, essentially, and I always thought I'd be somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would I live in Indiana? I'll go to Chicago or big city or out west. But nope, here I am, and it's the best.
Yes.
I really love it, and it's a great place to be able to travel from,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the first year you ran a marathon? Were you still at Butler when you ran a marathon
Yes. So
that's crazy to me.
After I was accepted into Butler, and I was like, well, if I'm not running, I need a goal. I need a tangible goal to set my eyes on.
Yeah.
And so that summer going into college, I signed up for the Monumental. And I was like, okay, like, I'm going to train for it my freshman year. And right when I crossed the finish line, I was like, I want to do another. Like, I want, like, as crazy as that seems, I was like, something grabbed the hold of me, and I just really liked it. It was super rewarding. I didn't know what I could do, like, given the training, and I wasn't a high mileage athlete in high school. So marathon training for me, like, was still like 40 to 50 miles. And so I was like, okay, like, what can we do on, number 2 and number 3, and, like, let's see where this road takes me. And yeah, like, here we are, number 10 loading in August.
That's so crazy. It's amazing. Yeah. And what year would have been your first marathon?
So 2019.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you snuck that in.
Yeah.
Okay. 2018, 2019.
Around there. The fall of 2018, I
Years
think.
blur together.
Yes.
So, and also the run club you mentioned at Butler.
Mm-hmm.
What was the run club?
Yeah, it was a Butler run club, and there was only a couple of us. Butler's a small school of, 4,000 to 5,000 kids. And just really trying to start a run club there with 4 or 5 people doing, afternoon runs, morning runs, and just really facilitating, that running community. And it never quite took off in my 4 years, especially because the pandemic hit in the middle of it. Running in groups wasn't necessarily, like, the smartest thing to do, like, during the pandemic either. But just, like, trying to, like, meet people and, like, trying to see, like, all right, like, if you're running, Indy Mini, I want to run with you. And if you're doing Monumental, like, let's train together, especially because in college there are so many things to try and so many, like, different avenues. So just having that accountability with 1 or 2 other people, like, could be the deciding factor.
Yeah. I'm so glad that Monumental was your first marathon.
Yes.
What was your marathon time?
3:01:30.
Okay, so did that piss you off? Because you're like,
yes.
Yeah. That was a dumb question. Of course it did.
I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to run today, but at the half, I was like, all right, like, let's try and go for it. And being 90 seconds off, it still qualified me for Chicago at that time. And I was like, let's go for Chicago. And then Boston, then New York, and it just kind of spiraled ever since then. So credit to Beyond Monumental for being my first, and for that Google ads, because, when I typed in Indy marathons, like,
oh, it was like, boop, that's the one.
That's the one. And I was like, all right, like, good field size and fast times, and I was like, okay, like, if I could afford it as a college student, I'll do it.
Right, yeah. That's also helpful that it's here and not, your first one being in.
Right.
Yeah. Was it, so the next one was Chicago the following fall then?
Yes.
And then what was the timeline from your other ones?
Yes. So Monumental my freshman year, and then sophomore year, it was Chicago, and that's where I ran a 2:51.
Wow.
So cut off 10 minutes, which was amazing.
It's huge,
Huge PR. And then that qualified me for Boston. And at that time, I didn't know it qualified me for New York. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I could just do both because
just do both,
just because New York is a fall race and Boston's in the spring. But then the pandemic hit. And then Boston was like, well, since we missed the race in the spring, we're going to do a fall race. And I was like, oh, cool. So I have to do Boston, then New York, back to back within 3 weeks of each other because I could have deferred, but I was like, no, I don't want to defer because I want to do it as soon as I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was number 3 and 4 afterwards. Back to back. Yeah.
Wait, was Boston first?
Boston was first.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have not done Boston yet. I really do hope to work my way to qualifying. I'm getting closer, especially as I age up. But how was that experience?
It was, now since you're doing video, but there's a videographer and runner who he said his first experience was like a thumbs up, thumbs down. When he crossed the finish line, he went like this. And it was because it was the hardest thing and yet the most rewarding thing. And I truly resonated with that because it was my slowest time. I was banged up going into it with a knee injury, was not ready for the Newton Hills. I knew people said Heartbreak Hill would break you. And I was like, nah, like I'm young, I'm invincible, like I'm still in college, I could do it. Oh my gosh, at mile 19, when those hills hit, you're not ready for it, especially training in the Midwest. You're, the only hill I really had access to was Holcomb Hill at Butler. And just because my knee injury, like I didn't do hills too often.
Right, you're not trying to make that mad.
Right, no. And I'm like, I'm just going to try and be as healthy as I can and just kind of hobbled through Boston that year. And I was like, man, I got New York in 3 weeks. So Boston was a 3:07 and then bounced back in New York with a 2:59. And I was like, I don't know how I did that, but I did it. Probably not going to do that again because that was pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But I promised myself I'd do Boston again just because I wanted redemption after that. And just, I wanted not like my first marathon or first Boston experience to taint that race.
Right.
And I wanted to, get revenge on Heartbreak Hill.
Yeah. Like I need to do that again. I need a do-over.
Yes.
Do you work with a coach at all for your training?
I don't.
Okay.
So for the past couple marathon builds, I've just been strictly off of feel and just taking it week by week and just like seeing, all right, like I know Wednesday's a workout, I know Saturday's a long run, and just being flexible with my schedule as well. With being an entrepreneur, it's like I might be traveling 1 week or I might be in the city for, a couple weeks. So let's hit those couple weeks pretty hard. So just like having some flexibility in my training schedule is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it sounds like you're being smart about it, especially by feel and week by week, especially with somebody who has dealt with injury. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So now we have Berlin, London, and Sydney left,
Sydney.
Right?
Yes.
So what are you doing to go after those?
Man, I'm glad you asked. Somehow, some way, I got into Sydney in August.
That is in August.
Yes. And so
this year,
August 31st. Which is
like not that long from now.
Yeah, not too
You're
far.
going this year to Sydney,
which is amazing.
Okay. I was thinking, I saw somewhere you mentioned 2026, but you must just not have thought you were going to get in. And
yeah. Wow. So this summer, which is amazing, it's gonna be great. So got Sydney checked off in August, and then trying to run for charity or for like a specific run club in London. And then I'm only like about 2.5 minutes off from Berlin qualifying. And so
okay.
I really just want to qualify for Berlin and then, try and get lucky for London. But something about only, what is that, like 3 seconds per mile for Berlin, which doesn't sound that bad when you think about it. But you're like,
it is. That's a lot of time.
Yeah. You're like, okay, like a 6:18 converted, down to 6:15, like, ooh, okay. So got to do Berlin because I think, there's something rewarding about like going after a time. And just like something about running as fast as possible and booking that flight is going to be really rewarding.
Yeah. I think about it as like the time, it matters in that you're chasing your best. It doesn't matter what the time is.
Right.
But you're chasing your best, your personal best.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, you're competing with yourself. And that's the way I try to think about it too. When I think about Boston and I feel despair, I'm like, how am I ever going to do it? And it's like, you know what? Just chase your best.
Yes.
And that's, it'll get you there or it won't, but like just try to be the best. I'm like, okay, I can frame it that way versus getting so stressed.
Right.
Because it is really hard.
Yes. Yeah. And, what's this? I think the stat is still like 1% of people will ever like run a marathon.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm still in the 1 percentile.
Totally.
Like, I'm still, unique, and I'm still, one of those people that are crazy enough to run a marathon.
Yeah.
And especially with like the boom in running right now, it's like you have so many people just like being talented and just qualifying Boston like right off the bat. And it's like just not to get discouraged by those people. And comparison is the thief of joy.
It really is.
And it's like, I'm going to run my best, and I'm going to run and try and be the best version of myself.
Yes.
And that's all you can do.
Yeah. I love that so much.
This episode is brought to you by Bitch Sticks. See, I told you I was going to tell you what it is. Bitch Sticks is a self-care brand that cares about people, communities, and the world. Bitch Sticks is more than just a balm. It's a call to action to transform a, quote, bad word into a force for good. Each November, they give thousands of dollars, not just in product, but actually monetary support to support organizations that support survivors of domestic abuse or sexual assault. They are also a Indiana company. They are woman-owned, and while they are small, they are in over 5,000 stores nationwide. The Athlete Good Luck gift set is part of the giveaway that was mentioned earlier. It is amazing. It comes with 2 SPF lip balms, one just original, one eucalyptus. It comes with a big bitch stick that is for face sunscreen, SPF 30. The Son of a Bitch anti-chafe, which I just tried for the first time, and it is great. Quit Your Bitchin' muscle rub. I mean, how can you just not love this brand? I don't know. So if you don't win the giveaway and you want to try Bitch Sticks, just head to their website. It is bitchsticks.com, and you can use code ALLYB, ALLYB, for 20% off your order. Thank you, Bitch Sticks.
Do either of your sisters run, or like your parents? Have they ever run?
Yeah. So my dad ran all throughout like high school, and I believe some in college. And then my sisters ran cross country in high school.
Okay.
And then the reason why the Lee family knew of Butler was because my oldest got a letter from Butler to run for the 800 meter.
Okay,
and so she was there for freshman year, and then unfortunately got like 2 stress fractures on her shins, so had to get surgery on both.
On your shins?
And I'm like, man, so I think it was a really brutal recovery for her. And
wow.
But she's out in Connecticut now, and she loves backpacking and hiking and getting back into the running world, and that's been great to see. So all of us are still active, nonetheless. But again, I think I mentioned it. It doesn't matter like if it's a marathon or like a 5K or
Totally.
10K, whatever goal that you want to set, be motivated and be determined to get that goal. Like, it doesn't even have to be a physical goal either. I believe people can tackle any challenge that they set their minds to. And like, that's what I try and work like that's why I'm trying to tell my story a little bit more, to inspire people to tackle that main goal.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I loved how you said that. You're like, I'm not trying to, have this content out there to brag about myself or like whatever, but I want it to inspire other people that they can do whatever they set their minds to. I saw a quote the other day, and I wish I could remember it verbatim, but it was something like to the effect of, the reason that marathoners talk about their marathon, or the reason runners talk about their marathon so much, is because it was so life-changing. It's like such a big experience. It's not that I want to be like, look at me.
Right.
It's like, no, this was amazing, and I want other people to feel that same experience.
Yes.
So I really like how you said that, because, especially as somebody, again, who's so talented, being able to like see it through your eyes, it is really inspiring.
Right. And I grew up with the saying, my dad always said the saying of like, if you want notoriety or if you want publicity in running, like, you're in the wrong sport. Like, go play basketball,
Right.
go play football. Like, if you want to be popular, like, you're in the wrong sport.
Yeah, that's
so,
funny.
like, know your why and, like, know why you run. And it's not for publicity. It's truly for yourself. And I got lucky because 2 of my, like, video and photo friends, they want to get into the documentary, like, world. And they're like, let's tell your story. It is a tangible, like, time goal of hitting Berlin, hitting 245, going for all 7 world majors. But what's the true story beyond that?
Yeah.
It's not just a time goal. Like, what are the challenges internally that you're focusing on or, like, dealing with? What are the pressures that you're going through? And truly, running is just the gateway. Like, it is the hook. It is the thing that, like, gets people to click on, your YouTube video or podcast. But it's the lessons that they learn along the way. And, like, I'm hoping that people can transfer those skills to their own lives.
Yeah.
And maybe I walk for 2 miles, or maybe I just, like, walk and, like, or, like, run down the block and, like, see how that feels. Or, like, what if I just walk into a running store and just buy a pair of shoes?
Right.
Like, just get started.
Right.
Like, that's all I'm asking for, for my viewers.
Yes. So cool. I love it so much.
Thank you.
I want to talk more about content production too. And to build on what you're just talking about with the documentary, what does that look like? Are you constantly every week doing something? Do you plan to do like a couple things a month? Could you just talk to people about how that journey is coming together?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And obviously, this is a passion project for all 3 of us. And I think the biggest barrier for documentary workers are just getting used to the talent and, like, accessibility to the person, like, both physically being in the same space, but also, like, asking those tough questions too. And with them being 2 of my best friends, that's really easy. And, like, being around the camera is already, like, pretty comfortable for me. So that's not an issue. But the issue that we're running into is time, because we all run our own production companies. We're all, like, running around the city and, like, filming certain things and being busy. And that's the main barrier. But it's setting those early morning, like, alarms and setting time to, like, block out for filming. Or I'll tell them when I'm doing a long run that could be good to be filmed, or a speed workout. And so it's really just an open line of communication. And it's just been so rewarding, both on the creative side and also just a time capsule.
Yeah.
Because
how cool is
like,
that?
I could just watch the Chicago video whenever I want. And I'm like, wow, like, I did that. Or, watching, like, the Tokyo video that's coming out. It's like, I really did that. I really worked through, my injuries or, like, these different battles. I like it's such a good staple. And, like, okay, I was battling this in this time period. I can accomplish XYZ that's coming ahead.
Yeah. So cool to have.
Thank you.
I mean, shoot, I don't even have video of my wedding.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
I mean, that's the power of video.
Right.
And, like,
it really is.
Shameless plug to, like, production companies, because yeah, it's a timeless piece. And that's why getting into printing out, like, my work, because yes, digital's really cool, but having something tangible for you to, like, look through or just like reflect back on, like, with you or, loved ones, that's timeless.
Yeah. I'm obsessed. So my love for photography started when I was in high school.
Yes.
And my high school photography teacher, Mrs. Collier, I really don't know where she is now. I should look her up. But, we did darkroom photography in high school, and I fell in love with it. Like, the idea, that red glow, like, going in the dark and, like, learning about how to do that was so cool. And that was before digital was even a thing. That's how old I am.
Hey, it's coming back.
But it is.
Films, yes.
And when I lived in Broad Ripple as a 20-something, I also took a darkroom class at the Indianapolis Art Center.
Yeah.
And loved it again. Like, I was like, I really miss the smell of the chemicals, all the things that come along with the darkroom. And I also worked at Target Photo Lab at one point.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was my favorite job, probably.
That's awesome.
So anyway, all that's to say, like, I just am in awe of how you're using film. And, like, you just announced a film giveaway. And I was like, I wish I could do something with film.
Yeah.
But, like, tell people about why film and, like, why that's a medium you like. And
Whenever I explain my love for film, I always preface, it's going to sound pretentious because I think that there's a world with film. It's like, oh, like film is better than digital because like it's tangible and like not to knock digital, but there's something about, like you said, something about like seeing your negatives or seeing like your scans. And on the flip side, it's so much more meaningful when you take a shot when you know it might not turn out. If you don't roll the film properly or if you don't expose correctly, there's so many more, like, I guess, barriers to getting a good film photo that when it does come out well, or if it's like the shot that you really imagined, it's so much more rewarding. It's like running that race of a lifetime. It's like, it's not the actual act that is rewarding. It's all of the work that you put in to like the training, to like the nutrition, to the diet, to like all the other small goals along the way. And it teaches you like that one shot is, there's such a story behind each frame, whether that's going around like the city and taking a photo or like for like a coffee shop. It's so rewarding. And also to see the reaction of other people. They're like, wow, like that's film, or like that's our city, that's our coffee shop. Like you did that. And there's something tangible about it that I can't put my finger on, but so many people love film photography for a certain reason. And it's not feasible. It's expensive. It's a pain.
Yeah.
You know,
which is so crazy to think about how it's like just flipped because
right.
when digital started, I remember working in the photo lab and it was more expensive to do digital than it was to do film. And now it's just kind of wild how that works.
Yeah. And like truly everything comes back to analog. Like everyone wants to feel like they're like a part of the process.
Yeah.
I still shoot predominantly digital for my clients and for myself, but it's like, something about film is just so rewarding, and like you're really a part of the process.
Well, now this is the perfect segue to talk about The Blend, which I have watched a couple episodes of.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Thank you.
Tell people what it is, how you came up with the idea, what to expect from it.
Yeah. Shameless plug for The Blend. If you haven't checked it, please give it a like and a view. But really just like the love for coffee shops started when I was at Butler, and studying at coffee shops was my favorite thing. Not only like studying all day there, but when you get into your car and you smell like coffee beans, like, you know, you did something right. Like, you know, you did damage. Like, you know that, okay, I studied my ass off because I was there. But just like the people, the ambiance, just like the drinks, again, like something tangible about, you know, doing a pour over coffee or like making espresso. It's going to take some time. Like, it's not instant. It's an art in itself, and just wanting to pair the like film process with the coffee process. And when thinking about titles for like the series, I was like, The Blend is such a fitting title for it, because it's the blend of film and coffee, but also the blend of, you know, coffee beans and the chemicals being into like brewing coffee and like the science behind that and film photography. I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's the intersectionality of my two passions. And how can we also support the local coffee community here?
Yeah.
Because there's so many coffee shops. I think in the downtown area, there's more local shops than Starbucks.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. Like that's such an impressive stat. And, you know, everyone, no matter where you are, will go to a local coffee shop here in Indianapolis. And it's so rewarding. And if I could give back to the community, to the film and coffee community, like, I want to do that.
So cool.
And it's like, I want to evolve the series where, you know, it's educational. I want it to inspire other photographers to get into film because it's a daunting task. But I want people to see, like, if Mike Lee can get into film, like, I can.
Yeah.
And if I could have one or two different nuggets in each episode on like how to develop film or how to roll the film properly or how to expose it.
Oh my gosh,
like, I want it to be, I'm not a professional by any means, but like a master class for it. And
really
like
cool.
giving back to the coffee community at the same time. It's been a really rewarding process.
Do you develop your own film or you send it away?
Yeah, I send it. I'm not quite there yet. And
I don't even know. I'm like, where would you go? I mean, the art center I know has a dark room, but like, I don't know how that would work if you were gonna.
There's so many subcategories, I guess,
That's
right?
so true.
Like, and like I I develop it through one of my friends, Joey, and he's been really rewarding because he tells me like how each role like went, and if there are any things that he like saw in the dark room that I need to improve on. And it's just been a really collaborative effort.
So wild.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the relationships that you build through photography. And I get to meet all the owners of these coffee shops and like see why they like started it and like why they're in the community that they are and like they want to serve the community that they're in and just hearing the stories. So it's really just another storytelling avenue that I'm a part of. And I think we're on episode 5. Episode 5 is coming out soon. And really just getting a lot of good feedback from it too.
How often are you planning and putting out episodes?
Yes, so I'm planning on posting every other week. But
every other week?
Every other week.
That's amazing.
Which is great. And so pushing out film, as much as I can. But I'll be filming at coffee shops like, a couple times a week sometimes. We have episode, I think, 6, 7, and 8 already recorded.
Yeah.
Film is already back from the lab. So I have that stockpiled. I wouldn't be posting that frequently if I didn't get that much feedback from the coffee shops because it's usually a hell yes, like we want to be involved.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't we?
Exactly.
And it's free promotional at the end of the day. So since I'm getting so much support from it, it's like, well, I can't stop now and seeing like where that takes me.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Thank you.
How do you pick where to go?
That's a great question. It's usually like a coffee shop referring me to yet another coffee shop and just cold DMing coffee shops and saying like, hey, like here's my work. I would love for you guys to be a part of it. And usually just sitting down with the owner or manager. It's like, here's what it would, tangibly look like.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be obtrusive when I'm at the shops. I want to be a fly on the wall. I want to just capture the authentic nature of the coffee shop. And so usually they're okay with that. And I don't want to bother service. And I just want to like be there with my camera and like, my video person and then just talking through the process. And it usually takes about an hour to, 90 minutes just like being at the shop. But it's just, yes, it takes a lot of time, but at the same time, it's like, it's so, so rewarding.
Yeah. Every other week. Yeah. That's wild. I'm like looking at the quality of that and like thinking, man, like I put out weekly episodes and it's so much work and you're like, holy crap. But that is your jam.
Yes, that's my jam.
That is your jam. How can people work with you if they want to? If they hear this, they're like, oh, I've never heard of Mike Lee Productions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on Instagram. I have my website. I will never turn down a coffee chat. That is, again, my jam. Like, I would love to talk to people. I'm an introvert, like, in nature, but, like, one-on-one meetings is, like, where I'm at. So, like, podcasts is great.
Yeah.
Like, just coffee chats, like, over, some good coffee. And it's just, that's like the jam. And I always love to tell stories. So if you have a unique story or if you have a company or organization that has a really unique story that you want to get across like on the digital platform, I have plenty of experience with that. So
you do.
I don't section off my clients based on like what they do, but just if they're good people and if they have a good story, like I want to work with them.
Yeah. Man. I could nerd out too just about all the editing. I have you had one point mentioned on Instagram, I think, hey, like, should we get creators together? And I was like, can somebody teach me how to do stuff? Like, I will pay to, like, learn how to do the things that I'm trying to tackle because it just seems really overwhelming at times, like we've talked about. And especially doing good work, especially when the stories deserve the good work. That's when I'm like, oh, man, I feel bad that I did this early podcast that's not going to get, I'm just getting better and better.
Yeah. But it's like, how can we break down those barriers where it's like we have YouTube, we have, all these websites, but people are craving like in-person teaching or like in-person just like learning. So it's like if you could grab coffee with one person and just, hey, can you teach me like how to edit or like how to like shoot photos? I think people are more willing to do it than they will admit. And it's really rewarding like once you do it a couple different times. You're like, wow, like that felt really good. I think gatekeeping is such a, I don't know.
Red flag?
Yes, thank you. That's the word, red flag.
Yeah. It's like, wait, okay, we're not going to be friends then.
Right. And it's like a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like, can't you
Totally.
see that? Especially in a community like indie. And it's like, if we could, A, uplift meeting at coffee shops, and 2, like, the creative economy.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
How are
so
you not
great.
down for it?
Yeah. Well, I'm down. I have different value to bring, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've thought about signing up for a digital photography class at the Art Center again, just because I recently got a new camera, and
Exciting.
I was like, I know that there's a way that I could use this to the best of its ability, and I'm not taking any advantage of it. Like, I could probably be videoing with my really good camera, but instead I'm using my iPhone, which is fine. But
it's like, again, like the resources that you have, like just make do. And like, shout out Robert's camera. Like
Roberts.
They are such a blessing to this community. And I don't think people realize how having a shop downtown, and I don't know what other city has that. Like Chicago, you have a couple here and there, but to have a store that develops, that has used gear, that has like the new and up and coming gear in Indianapolis, in the heart of it, that's such an awesome resource that I don't think people will utilize too often.
So I want to segue to talk about what you dream of and what you're manifesting.
Oh, man.
Tell people what you're dreaming about.
Man, I'm dreaming about a lot of different things. I would love, again, to have like more intersectionality in my life. I think I definitely live to work. I know that for a fact. That is affirmed by my girlfriend, my friends, my family. And they're like, you just don't stop. And I was like, yeah, because I love what I do.
Yeah.
And so definitely, like, I want to continue that. I want to get more into like the personal branding, and just having genuine social media content is where I'm going for. Not necessarily like trying to be an influencer by any means, but like authentic partnerships and just like telling my story on a platform, and like collaborating with people like Roberts, collaborating people like Beyond Monumental, like 500 Festival, Boston Marathon. Like, all of those things are so great. I'm filming for Heartbreak Running Company out in Boston this
cool.
April, which is amazing.
Yes.
And that was a dream of mine since I've ran Boston. Like, I want to film it like one year. So to have that like actually like be this year is super exciting. And just capturing different stories, whether that's running, camera gear, film, like those are like kind of my 3 buckets right now. And so if I could, do more of that in 2025 and 2026, I'm here for it.
And what about 2028?
Oh, man. I mean, of course it's the Olympic year. Of course the Olympics are, in LA. That would be like the icing on the icing of the cake.
I think you'll get there.
To like be there and just be there with my camera, filming like professional athletes. That would be the dream. Definitely manifesting that into existence. So yeah, just like, how can we go from point A to point B? And I know that there's a lot of work to be done, before 28 comes around. But it's just, again, just like running. Every single training block will help you, get to the goal that you want to be at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Olympics, man. That would be so incredible.
Yeah.
You never know who's listening.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's like you got to put it out there and say, hey, I want to be there. I want to do this. I mean, all the brands, all the different, I mean, there's just so many avenues to get there.
And it just takes one.
Right.
It just takes one. Like, you don't need a million. It just takes one. So keep on reaching out. And it's like, for the 10,000 no's that you're going to get, like, you just need one.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Oh my gosh. And when you do, this is back to the documentary because I've been thinking about this. Yeah. When you do that, do you stockpile all that and edit it all at once, or do you kind of like edit as you go?
That's a question for my 2 friends, just because I'm more of a like creative director. So I'm not in the editing lab, like editing, just because I'm like, I feel like I'm too close to the project.
Like literally you are the project.
Right. Right. I'm like, like I also don't like editing myself.
Yeah.
If like that just feels weird.
It sucks. I do it a lot.
Yes. And I do it with the blend. So I'm just like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And again, it's like, I want an editor to edit like my documentary, just because they'll see things that I don't. And it will attract so many people like them, that might not be in the running world, that will be interesting. So if we could draw more eyes through, start to finish, like I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, so good. Well, I hate to do this. I'm going to ask you the end of the podcast questions, but we're not in a rush. We have time, so this is good. So I need to know, Mike, what is your favorite running song and or mantra?
Man, I don't listen to music while running. It's something that I've just never done. But that doesn't mean I don't, get hype in the car, like get like going too much. Yeah. But it's usually something with like Khaleo. I love like the song "Way Down We Go."
Okay.
It's more of like a slower song, but just something about it, like something about the rhythm just like really gets me going before a race. But also like I heard from Jeff Cunningham, who's like a pretty prominent coach in the running community, like be the curious amateur. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. And what he means by that is like be an amateur of the sport. Amateur is like for the love of, blank. It's like always be a sponge, always be like soaking up knowledge, be curious, be humble about like where you are too. He always talks about like, I don't call myself a professional. Like other people may call me a professional, but I'm always just an amateur of, my career path or like video or like running. So having that mantra in the back of my head, like during my training build, during the race, like that really just keeps my head up during it. So I always just like try and keep that close to my heart.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a really good one for life too. And it's like stay humble in a lot of ways too, right? It's like you always have more to learn.
Yeah, and like staying hungry about it. Like always saying yes to new opportunities. Just like dive into the deep end as much as you can. So shout out Jeff.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, and then next finish line or milestone, which we've kind of already given a lot of that away, but let's reiterate.
Yes, so obviously Sydney coming up. Which is great. But I also have Chicago in October. Sydney, August 31st, and then recover from the jet lag and then get going for Chicago second weekend of October.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of time in between, but not too much, to dilly-dally. But yeah, just like wanting to say yes to the opportunities that arise. This Chicago I'll be a legacy runner after this. So,
how many is that?
I think 5.
Okay.
Yes, 5. 5 will get you like legacy status, so you could run.
Does it have to be in a row?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes, which is a lot. I don't want to think about the money and like the time.
We can't think about that.
No. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss when it comes to
that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So for Sydney, how many days before the race will you get out there?
I think at least 3 or 4.
Okay.
I want to make it a whole trip. I haven't been there, obviously. So
it's been a really long time since I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have any recommendations for Sydney, please send them my way because it's a whole nother world out there. And just like the flight, like how do I do that? Who knows? So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, because usually my MO would be like, okay, let's get some Ambien and sleep because I can't sleep on a plane without Ambien.
Neither.
But then you're like, well, what's that going to do to my body?
Yeah.
Just all the things you have to think about differently when you're traveling for a world major marathon compared to just going for vacation.
Right.
The most memorable thing I did in Sydney was I was with my dad and my middle sister, and we climbed the Harbor Bridge, and it was unreal.
Fun.
But I have no idea how that looks in a week like Sydney Marathon. I have no idea if it's even possible.
Maybe that'll be my shakeout afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
Like, after the
Trying
race.
to climb the bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just shaking out all the lactic acid.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then I've done on my Peloton treadmill, they have like what is it called? Like a scenic run, and they do it in Sydney. And so I've done that just because I can, I guess. And it's kind of cool to see like where people run in certain cities.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be my like visualization tactic.
Yeah.
Leading up to the race.
There you
I'm
go.
Like, okay, like hop on the Peloton or like one of those scenic runs.
Yeah, you totally can. And now they're starting to do content related specifically to the New York City Marathon.
Fantastic.
Like they have, I think, part of the course on there.
That's
I don't
great.
know. But that's really
great.
nice because it's like, oh, yeah. And sometimes you just need to do something like that to get your mind somewhere
Absolutely.
else. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Sydney in August. Do you have a time goal for Sydney, or are you just going for the experience there?
I think a little bit of both. Like we'll see how the summer looks, hoping for a really healthy and good summer training block, trying high mileage this time.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. I think my body's ready for it. As I get older too, like high mileage will be, my friend. instead of, I feel like I've built more muscle and more experience too, and I could, learn and really listen to my body a lot better this time around and see like what I need to look out for this training block. But like, we'll see. I haven't done research on the course yet, so I don't know if it's, fast or faster compared to Chicago.
Yeah.
So I think depending on the summer build, Sydney might be the B goal or Chicago will be the A goal.
Right.
Depending on the weather too. So like,
right.
Who knows? But trying to be flexible, trying to roll with the punches, but also like be determined in, the goals that I set forth, and really just like trying to keep myself accountable through it.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't believe you get to go do that. I'm so excited. Well, every time we talk about Sydney, I tell people my oldest daughter's name is Sydney.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to take her there. I got to go do the marathon.
It's only right.
Yeah. But maybe she'll want to do it. Maybe she wants to run the Sydney Marathon. Can you imagine if that were? I don't know. One can dream.
That is legitimately manifesting.
Yeah.
Like if your name is Sydney, shout out to all the Sydneys. Like
right.
You have to do the Sydney Marathon.
You have to go do a Sydney Marathon.
Right.
And do you run with anybody today? Like, do you run with any of the clubs, or do you just primarily work out solo?
Yeah, a lot of it is solo, but my friend Corey, he and I, we've been running since the pandemic and like through like our Butler days. But yeah, like I try and get out like and visit all the run clubs if I can. But we're usually like a 5:15 in the morning type like crew. Corey works at 7 a.m. and every time I complain about that because he's like, well, yeah, I work from like 7 to 4. And I was like, what? But like, why? Can you just like...
Wait, does he have his own business too?
No.
Okay,
no.
So he is, okay.
Yes. So he's pretty regiment in that.
That makes sense.
And I was like, man, like, I don't have to like... If I didn't have this run, I didn't have to wake up until like noon if I didn't have to.
Yeah, you're a good friend.
Yeah.
You're a really good friend.
Thank you.
Corey will love that when he hears it.
Yes, exactly. But shout out to Corey because he and I, we've been running for a couple of years now, and it really just feels like second nature just to, like run with him. And we have the same goals too, and just like really having a good time while running it. And like he makes it a lot easier, and I hope it's the same too. But it's just like trying to find community within like this crazy world of running too.
Yeah, right. Well, and I just props to you for getting up in the morning because I don't have to at this moment. And so, I mean, I do. My kids wake me up, but I don't have to get up at 4 a.m. like I used to go get in miles. Before my friend Selena, she was the one who had to work and be at work at 8. And so we always got up early to get it done before she would have to go to work. So,
yes.
Yeah. And so in terms of milestones, any big milestones out there outside of the obvious one of getting all the world majors?
Yeah. I think that's the key objective, I think. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know where this crazy world's going to take me either.
That's true.
And like the places that I get to see and the people that I get to meet, like that is such a rewarding part of the whole entire process. And it's like, if I could learn, like at least one thing along the way of each training block, or like meet one person in every single country or every single race, that is success to me. And sharing it with people like back here and bringing people along for the journey, and like, again, like learning about the course and learning about the culture. Like that's such a unique experience of like an international marathon.
Yeah.
And just like, again, sharing it with the platform that I have and just like seeing the people invested in it. And like, that's been really rewarding. And also, like we mentioned earlier, it's a time capsule too. So when I'm older, like seeing that, like it's like, okay, I did that in my 20s. Like I did that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a Gen Z term, but it's like, it's dad lore.
Oh, I don't even know
like,
what that means.
Looking back at it, like it's like, oh, like dad, like you did the Sydney Marathon, like when you're 25. It's like, yeah, like I did that.
I did that.
And like, here's the video if
That's
that plays
neat.
back, like, in the future. But who knows if 4K is going to be like, like
black
relevant.
and white.
Right.
Yeah, I know it'll be like, wow, Dad, the quality of this is awful.
Right. But hey, it's going to come back.
It's
going to come back eventually.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you ever we talked about, doing 5Ks and stuff like before. Do you ever do other distances, or is the marathon your main, obviously your main focus right now, chasing the majors, but.
I think I always like to incorporate like races within the training block, like to like incorporate that race day feel and environment. So obviously doing the 10-miler, if I'm not filming it for the 500 festival, and like doing a half marathon in June or July, like leading up to Sydney. But like those are just really fun for me because I feel like a marathon is a little bit too serious. So like for me just to like go out there and just have fun. Turkey trots are always a tradition of mine. So towing the line with a couple high school friends, like that's so fun. And just having that tradition side of running is something that I always tap into. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. No,
You've
thank
inspired
you for
me a
having
ton.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the goal. So if we can inspire, a couple other viewers and listeners like that, like we did our job.
Yep.
Like,
job's done.
Yes.
And thanks to everybody who's listened or maybe even watched the video. Who knows? I don't know if people will watch it. But
incorporating video is a huge step. So thank you for doing that.
I'm trying, Mike. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy running. Yay.
We did it.
If you enjoyed this Sandy Boy Productions podcast, Finish Lines and Milestones, please go share, rate, review. I'm going to ask you to do a couple more things, and that is go buy your tickets for the Indianapolis. I'll have another live show with myself and Lindsay Hine on May 2nd in Indianapolis, and check out the Instagram giveaway. It is humongous. Talk to you soon.